So today I dove into a conversation with Haley, and we talked in detail about what her perspective looks like from a natural family planning instructor who teaches the Creighton model, what her life looks like with PCOS. We also talked about homeschooling, parenting, and key takeaways that we think all women, especially young women, should be doing as they're joining into this cyclical life. It was such a great conversation, and I'm so excited for you to listen in and hear more about Haley. Welcome to the Cyclical Doula Podcast. I'm Emma, a certified SymptoPro instructor, a fertility awareness educator, and your guide to fertility coaching and reproductive health education from menarche to menopause and all the different types of motherhood in between. If you're seeking a natural, science-backed approach to managing your fertility, understanding your cycle, or simply connecting with your body in a new way, you're in the right place. Each episode is designed to empower you with the tools, knowledge, and confidence you need to thrive in your unique journey. Quick disclaimer, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice or individualized charting support. For specific guidance, please consult with your healthcare provider or fertility awareness instructor. Now, let's dive into today's topic.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of their mama leads. From motherhood's highs to charting the low, your body's story is the star of the show. Matriarch heart.
I'm so excited to have you here today, Haley. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Haley Yeager. I am in Arizona and I was not born, but I was raised here. So I can't quite call myself a native, but very close.
Yeah.
I am married and I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and 1. So life is very full and it's great and it's very unexpected all the time.
Totally.
And I love it. I have been a natural family planning or fertility awareness based method teacher, instructor for the last, I guess it's been 8 years almost now. And I started by teaching SymptoPro, so sympto-thermal method. And then just about 2 years ago, I became trained to teach the Creighton method of natural family planning. And that was mostly because I started working at an OBGYN clinic in my area that practices NAPRO technology. So I don't know how familiar with your listeners are with NAPRO technology, but it's natural procreative technology. So it's a way of, it's kind of like root cause medicine, right? So for women that are struggling with whatever, whether it's infertility, PCOS, endometriosis, all the things, they can be learning to chart their cycle for the sake of working with the doctor, figuring out what's going on, and then receiving treatment from there. So I started working at that OBGYN clinic that specializes in NAPRO technology, and I was trained to teach the Creighton method alongside of that, since it's more of kind of like a quote unquote medical method, I guess you could say. So I started learning that and started teaching that. And so I've been doing that for about the last 2 years. I love both methods. I think both of them have incredible strengths. Right now, because I'm just kind of in the Creighton world, I'm focusing on teaching Creighton. So I actually recently just left that clinic. No hard feelings. It was amazing, my time there. Just, the Lord takes you in different directions. And I also, with my 3 kids at home, it was hard to be gone for as long as I had to be gone by working there. Right. Yeah. So I just actually left that clinic and now I'm working virtually, just seeing clients anywhere and everywhere, teaching them Creighton. And then I also have my own podcast, the Truth and Fertility podcast that I started recently. So that's kind of who I am, what I've been up to.
Nice. Awesome. Is there anything else like outside of your work that you want to share, either like family life or like some fun hobbies or anything like that?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What is my hobby when I
That's a hard one. I always have a hard time answering
children.
that question. I know.
My hobby right now is running after children, to be
Yes.
completely
Yeah.
honest. But no, my husband and I, we met country dancing. So that's something that
Yes.
I
I remember
really
you
enjoy
telling me that.
doing.
It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love telling people that story. But yeah, so we're very much like country folk. We're like wannabe hillbillies, basically. But we live in the city. So, um, but we love camping. We've got a fifth wheel trailer. So we love camping. We do that a lot throughout the summers. Because it just gets so dang hot in Arizona. So we
Yeah.
need to go up north and so we love camping. I don't know. We traveled a lot this year, I feel like, much more than we usually do. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but hobbies is a hard question because
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
especially as
not
a
in the
parent,
season of
I
hobbies.
feel for sure. Absolutely. I totally feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one thing that's been filling up your cup lately?
Mm. Honestly, this kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
love podcasting. I love being on podcasts. I think it's a real blessing when your work is something that you love.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, this has honestly been filling my cup. Like I am a huge advocate for, especially when you're deep in the trenches of motherhood
Oh,
and you've
yeah.
got little ones running around
Hmm.
and maybe even minimal help, especially. I think it's so important to make sure that you're still doing something where you're talking to an adult and you feel
I
like an
feel
adult.
that for
And
sure.
and this is that for me. So I
Yeah.
really love speaking. I love being an advocate for this just kind of world of women's health and charting. And yeah, so this is honestly what I love. Um, so I know it's maybe not like the best answer,
Yeah,
but
no, no, I love it.
but
That's great. That's
yeah, this
so
is great.
good. That's awesome. And is there one like ritual or rhythm that you do on a regular basis that you like swear by? It can be
Mm,
either like health based or like parenthood, anything.
okay. I mean, the first thing I can think of is ritual, or I'm very much a routines person.
Yeah.
So I'm very like type A. I need to have things planned out.
Yeah.
So one thing that I do is that like keeps me sane is I have every weekend, whether that's Saturday or Sunday, I'll sit down and I'll just grab my cup of coffee and I'll just sit down. I'll look at my planner and I just like plan the heck out of the next week.
I love that.
And that I know it's just amazing. Some people would hate that. I love that because I plan out our meals, I plan out everything so that during the week things are hopefully going as smooth as they can.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy just kind of taking that time to look at what's coming next. We also, oh, here's another thing. We just started homeschooling as well. So that
Okay.
was, I don't know
Yep.
why I forgot about that. We started homeschooling my 5-year-old. So I mean, kindergarten.
Yeah. We're in
It's
the
just
same boat. We just
reading
started
good
kindergarten
books.
too. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so we're homeschooling, so that's been fun. It's been going really well. I'm actually very proud with how we've been going so
That's
far. So
awesome.
yeah, so planning out, our lessons for the week and everything. So that's a ritual, I guess you could say, that I enjoy
Yeah.
doing.
That's
Keeps
awesome.
me sane.
Do you have a favorite planner? Like, do you?
Okay, so I use a homeschool planner. So
Okay.
it's a homeschool planner I found from this website called Treehouse Schoolhouse.
All right.
I am liking it so far.
Yeah.
I have, but I also plan, it's like I use it as a regular planner, but then I put our homeschool stuff in
Right.
there as
Right.
well. So yeah, so I've been using that for the last month or so, however long we've been homeschooling. And I do
Nice.
like that. Beforehand, I really just use my Apple Calendar because my husband and
Yeah.
I have it shared. So we know what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. But usually what I do is I'll sit down at the beginning of the week, look at my Apple Calendar, and then transfer all the things that I have going on that week to my paper so
Yeah.
that I just kind of know what's happening. And then I'll
For
fill in other
sure.
things like what the heck am I cleaning this week? And what am I
Yes.
making for dinners this week? And what, just to try to keep something, my house looking
Absolutely.
somewhat like it's not a tornado hitting it every week. So,
For sure.
anyways, yeah. So that's what I do right now.
Yeah. I'm like totally agreed. I like am a paper planner at heart and
Yeah.
like love writing stuff down, but the
Mm-hmm.
way that my business works and like sharing calendar with my husband, like everything needs to be electronic or else like nothing would ever be scheduled appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that before too, just like writing it all down.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's our typical routine of what we do there.
That's so good. Cool. What's been your favorite part of homeschooling so far? I know you
Ooh,
just started, but
that is a really good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is I think just seeing, so my I have a boy and two girls. So my son is my
yep.
oldest. And I think it's really just seeing his gifts come to life.
Yeah.
Like he has such a math brain,
Cool.
and which is interesting because my husband and I actually both are math brains. And then it kind of runs in our family. And then my dad is an engineer, my mom is a math professor, so it's like math just kind of like is in the bloodline for
Yes.
us. So seeing him like we are typically doing like 2 to 3 math lessons a day just because he gets it so
Because he loves
quickly.
it. Yeah.
Yes, language arts were a little slower at that, and that's fine
That's
too.
totally
Like he
cool.
doesn't need to read. No, but I think it's just seeing his gifts come to life and seeing things click is so that's been probably the best part. And
Yeah.
also just the fact that like there's so much freedom that comes with homeschooling. And I know in every state, some
Yeah.
states make it a lot more difficult to homeschool than
Right.
others. Arizona, it's like there's honestly there probably should be more restrictions.
Yeah, I feel that way about South Carolina too. It's like you don't really have to do anything.
No, there's no requirement other than to just tell the state that you're doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am doing it state of Arizona in case you're listening. But yeah, so we don't have a whole lot of requirements, so there's a lot of
Yeah,
freedom.
that's great.
And so yeah, just kind of seeing him thrive in that. And I also think too, because I really enjoy scheduling and routine, it's really put like a structure to our day, which I
Yeah,
really enjoy. And I think it's helpful for my kids too, just to kind of know what's coming next.
for
And
sure.
it's even felt weird, even on the weekends, it started to feel weird that like, oh, okay, we're not sitting down. Like actually this last Sunday, we were eating dinner and my son looks at me really quick and he's like, we didn't homeschool today. And I was like, Dad, it's Sunday. We don't
It's Sunday. We
homeschool
don't
on
have
Sunday.
to.
Yeah. And so it's just like it's become kind of part of our
For
structure.
sure.
And I really enjoy that too. I like
Yeah,
that a lot.
that's awesome. That's so cool. Great. Well, tell me a little bit more about like what led you into your work that you do now.
Yeah. That is an amazing and loaded question.
Okay, you
But I
feel
will
free
answer
to
it.
talk
I
in
will
a
answer it. Yes.
long way to answer it.
Yeah. So the story really starts when I was 16. I had always had irregular periods. And by the time I'm 16, like most of my friends have periods that are regular. And so
Okay.
I remember going to the doctor, or I told my mom about it. And my mom was like, well, let's just go to the doctor and see. And I did not grow up in a household that my parents did not use like any sort of natural fertility charting or anything.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up really in a household that knew about that or talked about that. And so I ended up going to the doctor. And what happens when a 16-year-old goes to the doctor and says she has irregular periods, she gets put on the pill.
Right.
So that's what happened.
Right.
And it made me so moody, Emma. I was not the same person.
Oh,
And
no.
I was on it for like 2 months and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I got off of it and I didn't really pursue anything else. I was just like, I don't like this. We're going to do something different. And yeah, so I didn't really think about it anymore. I just lived with the irregularity. When I was 18, at this point I was really involved in my church youth group, and there was a talk given by one of the leaders or whatever, and she gave a talk on natural family planning and also talked about how it can be used in the medical field. And that totally just like it blew my mind. This is the first time I'd ever heard about this, and just learning like how you can see your hormone movements on a chart. You can see all of these different things. And it just, it blew my mind. So I remember like beelining up to her at the end of the talk just to pick her brain about everything. And she had recommended a doctor that was in my area. Spoiler alert, it's the same clinic that I was actually just working at the last 2 years.
So cool.
So when I was 18, actually, I went there as a patient saying, or just presenting like, I have irregular periods.
Yeah.
I feel like that, and that was all I had. There was no pain. There was no, it was just this irregularity. But especially by 18 years old, you really should be regular at that point. And so
Yeah,
they
and
had
when
me,
for some
sorry, yeah,
people
go
who
on.
don't know, like when you say irregular, what are
Mm.
you talking about with that?
Yeah. So I just never knew when it was coming. Like
Yeah. Okay.
it wasn't even like a monthly thing. It was like I could have it every 6 weeks. It could be another 8 weeks. Then it could be
Yeah.
10 weeks. Then it could be another four. Like it was just
It was
all
all over
over
the
the
place. Yeah.
place. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I don't know if I was actually ovulating at the time or not.
For
I just
sure. Yeah.
knew that everything was not
You're bleeding
predictable.
in random times. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows if it was even real periods at the time
Right.
too. Like
Right.
I really didn't know. And so when they had me start charting with the Creighton method.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I had ever gone into the world of fertility charting. You can call it natural family planning. I wasn't sexually active at the time, so I wasn't doing it for that. It was
Yeah. Right.
just monitoring my cycle. And so with that, then I had some blood work and I had an ultrasound. And with all three of those things, they diagnosed me with PCOS. But just taking a look back at when I was 16, presenting the same exact issue, there was
Yeah.
no blood work, no ultrasound, no questions asked. It was just, oh, okay,
Right.
here's the pill.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 18, going to this other doctor that practices naprotechnology, restorative reproductive medicine, they treated me like an actual patient, not just like,
Yeah.
oh, here's a pill, go take it, you'll be fine.
Right.
And that was a completely different experience for me. And especially because I'm not married, I'm
Right.
not experiencing infertility,
Right.
I don't have like this crazy story of like what's been going on. No, it's just I didn't know when my period was coming, but they still took that information and they diagnosed me properly to then be able to treat me properly. And that
Yeah.
was like the game changer.
For sure.
So yeah, so I kind of went on that journey then of after I got my diagnosis, I was probably 19 at that point. I was in
Yeah.
college and I actually met my husband, the man who would be my husband. I met him at age 20 and we got married when I was 21. So I got married very young.
Yeah. Yep.
But he was 6 years older than me. So when we average out our maturity level, we're about 23, 24. So it's fine.
Love it. Yeah. I love that.
So I got married young, but I say that because if I had not gotten that diagnosis and gone through that treatment, and it wasn't a night and day thing either. Like it took a few years of different medications, working with different nutrition and diets and things like that. It took some time to regulate my cycle, to actually start ovulating and get to the point where where I was even ovulating. It took time to get there,
Yeah.
which is against everything that we want, at least in America right now,
For
right?
sure.
Like we
A
want an
quick
answer, we want it now, we want to
Yep.
change, we want it now. And it wasn't like that. It took time. But
Yeah.
the reason I mentioned that I got married young is because by the time I met my husband, I had already gone through a diagnosis, treatment plans, and I was at the point where I was ovulating, which is
Yeah.
more than a lot of people can say when they're
For
experiencing
sure.
the same exact things that I was experiencing, but they stay on the pill or they get on the pill and then they stay on the pill, right?
Right.
And so when we got married, we wanted to achieve pregnancy pretty quickly. And it took about 7 months, but in all intents and purposes, that was not a long time. And we were able to conceive, and that's my first
Yeah.
son. So with all of this being said, like had I not gone through that process as a single woman, my husband and I hands down would have had infertility problems like that.
Yeah.
We would have had a
For
completely
sure.
different story. And what's like really bone shaking about that reality too is my three kids, the exact sperm and egg that created my first, second, and third child, they may not have met when at the
Right.
time that they did
Yeah.
in order to create that that individual
Right.
human being that is my
Mm-hmm.
children, right?
Right.
And so yeah, it's just kind of a bone shaking reality that had I not gone through that at 19 years old, 18,
Right.
19, I wouldn't have had the kids that I have today. So I like, if somebody were to ask me, like, what is your life goal? Like, besides obviously being a good wife and being a good mother and getting my kids to heaven, all the things, besides all of that obvious stuff, my life goal is to get girls off the pill, to actually
Yeah.
teach you what it's doing to your body, why it's bad medicine, and here's what we can do instead. Let's get to the root of why you're having that painful period or irregular periods. Why
Yeah.
are you experiencing that? And then let's get to the bottom of it. And if you're not getting there until you're married and then you're starting to experience issues, right? Like, it's still never too late, because you still want to make sure you're getting to the bottom of what's going on with
Right.
your
And we
health and
always want to
making
be
sure.
healthy anyways. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's never too late to be healthy. But I
Yeah.
am just, I really, really love when I can talk to a young adult or even a girl in high school years. Like, this is
Yeah.
when they should be learning this stuff so that they can be prepared for what is to come down the road. So yeah, that's kind of the story in a nutshell. And ever since then, I've just been like, this just inflamed this passion inside of me to teach people and to just recognize like why we really need to get our game on with women's health, because if we're just throwing the pill around, we're not helping anybody. So anyways, yeah, so that's kind of where now I'm here. I'm teaching.
I love that. That's so good. Okay, so I have a question for the people who are listening who are parents who might have daughters who either are little like ours or maybe like starting to get into that time frame where they're experiencing bleeds, they're having their menarche, things like that. What's your like number one like suggestion to a parent other than like especially if like they don't know how to chart yet? Like what are as a parent, like if they're not charting, what's your suggestion of how to like get their daughters this knowledge well?
Mm. Okay, so I have a few things that come to mind. So the
Yeah.
first thing that comes to mind, and this goes for your daughters and sons,
Yeah.
because I totally believe that our sons, our men, need to know what this is,
Absolutely.
and
Agreed.
it might even be for the sake of teaching his future wife what this is,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
So, my son, actually, I have a funny story about this. So being an NFP teacher, I'm very open with my kids about like, mommy's going to go teach NFP or mommy's going to go teach fertility charting. They have absolutely no idea what that means, but they've asked before, and I'm just like, well, I teach girls about their bodies. And you know, and they're like, oh,
that's enough of a statement.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I think it's just even being open about that from a young age. My son, I was teaching my sister-in-law recently NFP, and I was leaving to go meet up with her, and so I told my son, I'm like, hey bud, I'm leaving right now, I'm gonna go teach Auntie NFP. And he was like, Auntie doesn't know NFP. I was like, yes, okay. In your world, everybody knows this, and that's where I want to keep you right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to break that bubble just yet.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and so I think if your kids are young, I think just being open with like, I mean, obviously giving them age appropriate information, but just saying like, hey, this is, even talking to your sons, saying, I don't know if I can say this, if you want to edit it.
You're good. You're good.
That's fine. But like saying, like when you're in the bathtub saying, hey, that's, if he's asking, right? Say, that's your penis. Those are your testicles. Like using the actual language.
For sure.
Because when we don't call our arm a noodle thingy from our torso. Like we don't call it that. We call it an arm, right? So if we're making funny names for our genitals, what does that portray? You know, that kind of shows like there's a stigma behind it or something weird behind it. So we call it a penis, we call it a vagina, we just call it what it is when they're young and they're asking what that is. And that happens at a very young age. What I've recently learned.
Yes, absolutely.
But then as they get older, and of course I'm not in this stage yet, so I don't have personal experience with this, but I do think as they get older, and especially like when your girls are starting to have their first period and you're experiencing that, for sure, we need to be educating our girls as to what's going
Yeah.
on. Like tell them at age 9 or 10, hey, this is something that might happen maybe soon, maybe it's a few years out, but
Yeah.
at some point you're going to see some bleeding, and this is what that is, and this is why. And if you yourself are not knowledgeable about that, there are so many like oh, what's the word I'm looking for? There's so many like different programs
Yeah.
online for
Oh, yeah.
mothers and daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any off the top of my head. Maybe I can find some we can put in the show notes, but
Yeah, that sounds good.
like do a program for you and your daughter that leads you through that, to talk about like start that conversation, because then that conversation can lead a lot more easily into the sex conversation when they get old enough and it's age appropriate for that, right? So it's like a very gentle leading into that, and so we're kind of planting the seeds as they're young to then go into that topic. And same for the boys too. Like when we're talking about, when we're using the word penis, we're using the word, we're using the actual words that can help lead into when they start to enter puberty. Like what is this change? What is going to happen? Preparing them before that actually happens, so they're not totally like wigged out when things are starting to change, right? And then again, that leading into a better conversation about sex. So I just think, I think if you have young kids, that is a perfect place to start very age appropriate conversations about that. And especially too, like just as they ask the questions, if they're not asking the questions, I probably wouldn't lead into that unless they're just too old to be not knowing what it is.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But I would say like those are kind of the things that I would say, really, if they're young, start using the proper language. If they're a little bit older and you yourself don't have the knowledge to teach them, do some sort of mother-daughter program or father-son program with them to be able to learn that together. And that can really elicit a lot of good conversation from there too.
I love that. That's so good. Awesome. Let's see. What else? Because you teach Creighton, but you've also used and taught a sympto-thermal method. Like, what do you love either about both of them or like specifically about Creighton? Okay, let's take a quick brain break, and I want to ask you something. Have you ever wished someone could just sit down with you and magically tell you when you're going to have your period next? Or maybe you want to know exactly which days you can and can't get pregnant. That is the beauty of charting your cycle with a fertility awareness-based method. Once you can understand your cycle, it stops feeling like this random guessing game and starts feeling like a pattern you can actually trust. I promise it's not as complicated as it might seem. Your body's already giving you all the clues. You just need to learn how to read them. That's exactly what I'm doing right now while finishing up my Fertility Knowledge Collective certification. I am looking for a few clients to work with me for 3 months of online cycle coaching and charting support. We'll meet virtually, review your real-life biomarkers like cervical mucus and temperature, and help you build the skills you can use for the rest of your life. And since this is part of my certification process, this round is pay what you can. If you ever thought, I just wish someone would guide me, this is your chance. All you have to do is text me or send me a message or an email, and I'll send you the details and we'll figure out if this is a good fit. Okay, so text me FKC, Fertility Knowledge Collective, at 854-241-3778. Or you can send me an email or message me on Instagram at the Cyclical Jewel. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yes. Okay. My Creighton people are going to shriek, but I love temperature. I love temperature. If Creighton took your temperature, I'd be like, man, this is the perfect method ever. Like, this is the best. I love temperature because it just gives such a peace of mind, especially for I think when you have irregular cycles and and you have like lots of mucus here and there and you're wondering like what the heck is anything, that temperature rise can be a really helpful indication that like, okay, I have ovulated, or I've had some sort of ovulatory event happen.
Yeah.
I know that in about 2 weeks, I'm going to get my next period. Like once you see that temperature rise, it can just give such a peace of mind of like, okay, I know where I'm at in my cycle now.
Yeah.
And because, especially for your listeners who don't know, your temperature rises because your progesterone is a thermogenic hormone, so it causes your temperature to rise. It's it's a very minimal rise, so you need a special thermometer for it. But yeah, so I just think having that peace of mind can be really helpful. Now, looking at Creighton, I think that there's a lot of benefits there too. There's very clear and concise instructions that I really appreciate that Creighton has. They're much more detailed with things. So not only are you charting like the stretch and the color of the cervical fluid, but you're checking how many times did you see it? What kind of consistency did you see? There's a lot more details that go into it. And so I really appreciate it in that way too. It's also completely standardized. So like I always tell my clients, wherever you leave off with me, if you decide to go see somebody else, you can pick up right where you left off with me, and we are going to teach you the chart in the same exact way. Everything is going to be the exact same. So, and of course, with it leading in an APRO technology, I think is a very beneficial thing too. And also too, I have heard for people that, I mean, if sympto-thermal is a cross-check method, right? And Creighton it's only looking at mucus. So I always say the best method is the one that you're going to use. Like there's no true best method. It's whatever one you are actually going to use, right? So some people find it really just beneficial to only have that one check. They're only checking their mucus. They don't have to worry about anything else. And that's what they chart. And that's Creighton. But if they want that cross-check method where they're checking multiple things, it's helping give them a peace of mind, like with the temperature and the mucus and maybe your cervix positions and like sensation, things like that. There's other things that you can be checking. Add LH strips in there. Like let's do the whole thing, right? Like that can be a huge
chart
help to
everything.
people too. Chart everything. Yeah. So that can be really overwhelming for people, but it could also be a huge peace of mind for people. So again, there's pros and cons, I think, to all methods, but I think the best one is going to be the one that you use. But I do love temperature. I do love temperature. So yeah.
It is. It's a really good like outside data point. And I've like never fully dove into like all the test strips of like LH, and like I know that like Prove has a progesterone test now too. And like I've never quite dove all into that, and like Marquette, but I feel like that would have a similar vibe of like, all right, like it's a data point, not a understanding, which sometimes can be really helpful for some people.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And I have actually, the only methods that I'm trained to teach are sympto-thermal and Creighton. But I have, like you said, I have kind of put my feet in the waters of other ones, just because so many people, like I am the NFP
people ask in my community. Absolutely.
And so the amount, oh my gosh, Emma, the amount of time somebody sent me a picture of their mucus, it is phenomenal. The amount of
I welcome it at this point. I'm like, sure, why not?
I know. It's just, and not too many people can say that. So I am
that, and like birth
NFP.
workers.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my word. So, but I have gotten LH strips before just to use them, just to say that, okay, I know what they are.
I know how to use
experience
it.
Using them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've never actually used like Marquette. That's a really common method right now. There's Boston Crosscheck. That's kind of another one that's up and coming. Neo Fertility Femme. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many.
And a lot of them are cross-check methods, because I do think that women especially love that peace of mind, and they really love all of the techie stuff that comes with things. So the apps and the machines and all the things, right? I personally hate all that stuff. I just am like, you just need to know how to read your mucus and take your temperature, and you're going to be fine. But I understand why people like that. And so they like the cross checks just to help them feel better about and more confident about what they're seeing.
Yeah. So we were talking about planners earlier. Are you on paper charter? I know Creighton is on paper, but do you
I am
chart in
a
an app?
paper.
Yeah.
No, I am a paper.
Yeah.
Oh man, I could go on a soapbox about apps. I don't, I really, I'm very black and white.
Yeah.
I'm built that way. So I have a hard time being like, apps are awful. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to say that because again, the best method is the one that you're actually going to use. So if you
Yeah,
choose
for
an app,
sure.
then you choose an app and you're using it. And that's great. I will say you must be very selective of the apps that you
For
use
sure.
if you choose to use one. I have always, even with sympto-thermal, and Creighton is paper only.
Right.
They're just kind of old school like that. But with other methods like sympto-thermal and everything, you can use an app. But I always say, okay, if you're going to use an app, first of all, you need to learn on a paper chart. If you are
For sure.
just learning, I don't let my clients use an app
Yeah.
when they're first learning. I will only take a paper chart at first. Because that's how you're going to learn the best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're going to have a lot more success with paper. Now, once you feel confident about that, by all means, switch to an app. But there's only a select amount of apps that I would recommend. And that is just because there are thousands on the market right now.
Yeah.
And only about probably not even 10 of them are actually keeping your information safe. They're not selling your information.
Right.
And it's actually, I wouldn't say they're HIPAA approved or anything, but they're at least just keeping your information safe.
Right.
So some of those apps that I'm thinking of are like FEM, that's FEMM. Yeah. Neo Fertility is another one's kind of up and coming. Kindara is another one. And then what's the other one? Read Your Body.
Read Your Body.
Those are the, yes.
Yeah.
Is that one you?
That's the one that
recommend?
I use and recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're going to use an app, I'm sure there are a few others maybe that you can do your research on, but those are the 4 that I know of that I feel comfortable recommending. Now I will also say with all of those apps, turn the interpretation off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is not going to be correct unless you constantly have a 28-day perfect cycle and you ovulate.
Nobody does.
No, like there's too much estrogen in the
cycle.
water.
Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah.
You get sick that one time and it throws it all.
Exactly. And then the whole algorithm is messed up and it's just an absolute mess from there. It's using the rhythm method.
Yeah. Right.
It is using the rhythm method. That's all that the algorithm is doing. And the rhythm method is unsuccessful, as our grandmothers could tell us, right?
Yes, right.
So turn that off, learn from an instructor to be able to interpret it yourself. And you, especially when you do that, you will feel so much more confident in knowing when you are fertile, when you are infertile, and then making your family planning decision from there. You're going to feel a lot more confident if you turn those interpretations off and interpret it yourself.
Yeah, awesome. That's so good. I totit agree. It was about last year, we lost power for like 48 hours, which like happens, right? We live in South Carolina, hurricanes, whatever. And in that moment, I remember thinking like, it wasn't a critical time in my chart and all of those things. I wasn't really thinking about it. I was like, I'll just like jot it down and make sure it saves. I had backup on my phone battery anyways, but I was like, man, I'm glad that I know that I could, like, even if my thermometer broke, like I could still chart mucus only and have a really good understanding of like what was going on with my body and feel good about that. Obviously, like there's times for extended abstinence and all of that, but like I was like, this like feels really good to like be able to just be like, oh, like I could do this on paper with just my body and no other tools and like be totally fine.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that is, it's helpful to have those techie things because it's just convenient for us. Sure. But when things like that happen, when a hurricane hits, or when we actually, for the first time, like ever, I don't even know if this is the actual first time, we had a tornado warning just the other day in Phoenix, which was we did not have unsettling. It was a warning of a tornado, but we did lose power. And so not for long, but we did. And so it's just like in those times, those unexpected times, you still need to know what you're doing and just using your app, using your machine or whatever you're doing, using that as a helpful backup or just as a helpful tool to use to input that data But if you lose that, or, the government comes after us and we all lose everything, I don't know, but we all lose everything, right? When worst comes to worst, anyways, I always say, yes, know what you're doing and use a paper if you can.
Yeah.
If you want to use a chart, that's fine, but use it for data collection only. So
yeah. Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. All right, let's see. What else? Do you want to share anything more about like your PCOS or what you're welcome to, or we can cut this out too, of just like how you went through that healing in any more like detail, or do you just want to leave it at what you talked about before? Yeah.
No, yeah, that's actually a common question that I get. It's like, what the heck did you even do?
Yeah.
So I say that I healed my PCOS. That I managed it is what I probably should say.
Yeah.
So the way that I went about it at first is I went all in on medication. So now I'm a college student at this point. I have no desire to change my diet at all. I'm like getting food at the food court, and that's not necessarily the most healthy thing for you, but I had no desire to change that. So I'm like, oh, okay, medication, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So a typical medication for PCOS is metformin. It's an insulin resistance medication to help with that. It's a common medication that people will have when they are pre-diabetic or diabetic. And with PCOS, you can have a very similar insulin resistance issue. So that's what metformin is supposed to be for. It's supposed to kind of help manage that. I got to the highest dose of metformin that I could take, and I still wasn't seeing progress. So I stopped that. Some women, that works like a gem, and they're fine and they're good and they ovulate and it's perfect. But for me, my body just did not react well to it. Not well, but just it didn't respond to it.
Yep.
I was also on different supplements. So I was myo-inositol is a common one for PCOS, or even just like ovarian health, just to help support that. NAC is another one. I don't know if that's as commonly prescribed anymore, or it's not even prescribed, it's a vitamin, but I don't know if that's as common to take anymore as it was back then. But those were just a few things that I was taking. But overall, my body wasn't responding well to the medications. It just wasn't, nothing was really changing.
Yeah.
So about a year into all of that kind of rigmarole of medication stuff, I decided, okay, I probably need to start eating less Chick-fil-A.
What a bummer.
I know. So I did start changing my diet. And this also too was at the point, this was like right around when I met my husband, and he comes from a family that eats very well. He knows how to eat very well. And so I think that was just kind of like the Holy Spirit working there of like, okay, if you're not going to do this on your own, I'm going to give you someone to do this with you. And that can also be helpful if you're having to make some sort of lifestyle change, whether it's increasing exercise, eating better, being off your phone, like just in general, right? A lifestyle change. It's helpful to do it with somebody rather than just doing it on your own. So that's kind of what happened there. So I did not go on any specific type of diet. I just ate healthier. So what I did eat was a lot more fresh. Like I was eating fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh chicken that I was seasoning and cooking on my own. Right.
Yeah.
I was eating a lot less carbs, a lot less sugar. So you could kind of look at it as like a keto or paleo or whatever. But really, I just overall eating healthier. And I was saying no to the sweets and saying yes to broccoli. I don't know. I was just, I was just making better choices. And that is what moved the needle for me. So I started seeing, I never got to a point where I was 28-day perfect cycle. Like that has not happened as of yet. But I did get to a point where I was fairly regular, meaning that for me, I was seeing ovulation happen on a regular basis. It was not as often. So like ovulation for most women will happen every month, once a month. I was seeing it happen maybe once every 2 months was typically what I was seeing. But that was still more than I could have said before that. So the diet change really, really helped. And so that at that point, it was I was ovulating. I could pinpoint the time of ovulation. And that's how we were able to conceive, because I said earlier, it took 7 months to conceive, but in all reality, that was about 3 or 4 cycles for me.
Yeah.
So, I just take my
Which
body
is a
just
pretty
takes longer to
typical
ovulate.
timeline for
Yes.
most people
Yeah.
trying on days that are high fertility. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So now I don't want to say I healed my PCOS, because my ovaries are most definitely still polycystic. And
Yeah.
we've actually, my husband and I have actually even looked into the ovarian wedge resection, which is a very common NAPRO technology surgical procedure, where they go, oftentimes with PCOS, your ovaries are enlarged. And so it's making too much estrogen. If you've heard of estrogen, I'm sure people have heard of
Yeah.
estrogen dominance. That's very common for PCOS. And that's a lot of the reason why you'll have a lot more mucus than you should. Maybe you're having longer cycles than you should. And it's just because of that hormone imbalance. And so the idea is you literally take a pizza slice out of your ovary, you enclose the ovary back up so that it's smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
You are lessening the amount of estrogen that your body is producing, because if your body's producing too much estrogen, that's an issue. So you're trying to correct that and this is a very much a layman's explanation as to what this surgery is.
For sure.
But yeah, so anyways, we did discuss doing that surgery. Now, we were talking about doing that when I was not yet pregnant with my third. So I had 2. I was not nursing my second anymore. And we were trying, it took a little bit of time to conceive my third as well. And so we were starting to think about that. And actually, what's funny is the doctor's appointment that I had, where I was going to tell my doctor, hey, put me on your surgery list, was the appointment that I found out I was pregnant with my third. So that was just like, okay, here we go. All right, no surgery for me. Right. But that's still something that we think about. And honestly, I could probably say I'll probably have that surgery at some point in the future. My youngest is now 1. I just stopped nursing her a few months ago. And so it's starting to become another conversation. But yeah, so that would be the ultimate, like actually healing the PCOS is like actually going in to fix my ovaries. Not everybody with PCOS needs that by any means, but I have my symptoms are like pretty telltale. Like, yeah, you're a pretty good candidate for that surgery. So,
for sure.
But I still ovulate, and I've not necessarily had issues with infertility. And so, it would really just be a surgery for the sake of correcting my health and fixing that PCOS, because there can be long-term effects with PCOS, including like ovarian cancer and things like that. So, so it's still something that's up in the air, but that's kind of a long-winded answer to what I did back then. But yeah. So it's just maintaining good diet. I exercise pretty regularly. That's helped me manage it, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there like one thing other than like reaching out to maybe a restorative reproductive medicine practice, like what if somebody else is experiencing similar symptoms or cycles like you were or you are, what do you have like one piece of advice for them?
Well, I mean, like you just said, the first piece of advice would be go see a good doctor, the one that's not going to put you on the pill and one that's actually going to. And there are so many different like lists or directories of these types of doctors. You could go to factsaboutfertility.com or .org maybe. You could go to Natural Womanhood, FertilityCare.org. There's a lot of different places that you could go to find a good doctor in your area, or so many people are doing virtual now. So you could also do that. So that would be definitely my first recommendation. My second one would just be, don't take your symptoms lightly necessarily. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I've had multiple clients that I always ask about period cramps. Do you have any cramping during your period? What is that like? What does that typically look like for you? And I've had multiple people tell me, oh yeah, I'm like down for like a day or two and I can't work and I have to call out of school, but that's just pretty typical for me. And like, I just kind of move through and it's fine. And I'm like, no, that's not fine. Like, no, first of all, no one deserves to be experiencing
in that much pain. Yeah.
Yeah. And people just think like, okay, this is the curse of womanhood and you just have to,
Right.
bust through it until you're in menopause, right? No,
Right.
like this is something that's actually a superpower for women. Like our fertility is something that's so unique to us that gives us so much information, and we can hold a new human life within our bodies. Like
Yeah.
just like ponder that idea for a second, like
Hmm.
how actually amazing that is. And so when we're experiencing different symptoms like irregular periods, painful periods, I just don't take it lightly, because it could be your body telling you something. It could be your
Yeah.
body saying, hey, something's going on. Let's take a look at that. With every other form of medicine, we do that. If you have a sore throat, that means you probably have a cold or something, right? Like
Right. Right.
we don't just ignore different symptoms, but for some reason in the women's health sphere, we tend to do that, or we tend to just kind of downplay it.
For
And
sure.
no, I just think, yeah, I don't take it lightly. And then I just think in general, too, the American lifestyle isn't super healthy. And so I just think, if you're not exercising regularly, if you're not eating healthy in moderation, like have that ice cream every once in a while. But I think just be healthier, be just in general,
Yeah.
exercise, move your body, get outside, eat healthier, and just see what kind of changes that can have too.
Awesome. I love that. So good. Let's see. Um what do you wish, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but like what is a few things or one thing that you wish every woman or person understood about their body in general?
Mm. What a period is.
Absolutely.
I That's another thing. I always hear like, oh, I get my period every 2 weeks. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no.
you definitely
You're
do
not
not.
you're not getting your period every 2 weeks. You might be having some weird withdrawal bleeding because of some sort of
Yeah,
hormonal imbalance, and you need to work with the doctor to get that looked at and to
yeah,
understand why that's happening and to get that fixed, like get that
yeah.
healed. I was I was going down a rabbit hole the other day of I sometimes like to look up like different websites for like the different types of the pill and things, just to kind of keep myself
Yeah,
aware
to
of
have
what's out
information.
there.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a newer, I guess, medication called the O pill, which is the first over the counter birth control pill. And so I was looking at its website, and of course it has a beautiful website, and
Yeah.
it's got a lot of reviews and everything. I was looking at the reviews, totally down a rabbit hole, and there were so many people that were saying good, I mean good and bad things about it, but a lot of them said like, I get my period every 2 weeks and this totally fixed that. Or I haven't had my period in 6 months and now I'm getting it so regularly. I'm like, no, no, no. Like
The
this is
pill
not what's
is not giving
happening.
you your period. It's just making you
No,
bleed.
no. So if we knew what a true period was, which by
Yeah,
definition, a true period has to follow ovulation. A
right.
true period does not happen if it's not following ovulation, right? So
Hmm.
so that in and of itself we need to start recognizing. And then
Hmm.
any other bleeding from that is a withdrawal bleed because of some sort of hormonal imbalance.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that and figure out why that's happening, right? So and then and then that also leads us into, okay, what is the pill actually doing? That I would think is maybe the second thing I wish all women
Yeah.
knew is what the pill is actually doing. So
Yeah.
your doctor may not even know, to be quite honest, because
Right.
this isn't
Right.
stuff that's taught in medical school. But what the pill is actually doing, and if women were taught that, they would be able to give a much better consent to actually taking this pill, because
Yeah.
so many women don't know what it's actually doing. They don't know that it's going to be affecting your bone density. They don't know that it's going to be affecting your just your puberty, your development
Yeah.
as a woman, especially if you're
Hmm.
taking this as a teenager. They don't know the long-term effects of this. They don't know that it can cause endometrial cancer, ovarian cancer. Like they don't know this. And
Yeah.
so we really need to be informing more people about this, and why it's not a good option.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
So it, yeah, it totally needs to be talked about more. It's one of those things where it's there's a time and a place for it for certain people in certain seasons. And also, like, there's needs to be so much more knowledge on so many levels around it all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Mhm. Well, let's see. What to like wrap up, what's like your legacy that you hope that your work leaves behind or an impact?
Oh man. I just want to teach more people about their bodies, about the
Yeah.
truth. That's why I called all of like my website and my business and podcast Truth and Fertility, because so many people are not being taught the truth about
Yeah.
what's going on with their bodies. And so just fertility in general, but also they're not being taught about the things that their doctor is prescribing them and the long-term effects of that. And so I think if more women knew the truth about these things, they would be able to be more to give an actual better informed consent to what their doctor is giving them, but
Yep.
then to also make better, more informed decisions based on that, right?
Yeah.
And seek better help, seek better medicine, and go from there. So yeah, if I leave this world with any sort of impact, but of course, besides
Yeah,
being
beside
a
your
good mother, being a good
family.
wife,
Yeah.
right? That is first. That is
For
first.
sure.
But aside from that, I would say I would love to get girls off the pill. I would
Yeah.
love to get that 16-year-old girl off the pill. Let's actually figure out why you're experiencing, even if it's acne. Like, let's
Yeah.
figure out why are you having so much acne, right? Let's
Right,
figure that
right.
out.
Yeah.
Let's not shut down your reproductive system because you have acne. Why are we
Right.
doing that? Right.
Right.
So yeah, that would be the legacy I'd love to leave, is to be the woman that's anti-pill, I guess.
I love
I'd
that.
love
But
to be
it's
that
more,
woman.
I think from what I'm hearing with you, it's not just that you're against the way that the pill is being used, but more that you want everybody to know how their body works on a deeper
Oh, for
level.
sure.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
too that when you learn how your body works,
Yeah.
you start making better decisions to actually help your body get healthy, which any sort of hormonal contraception is not doing. It's just
Yeah.
putting a band-aid there, right? And so yeah, I think when anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm saying the same things over again now, but just yeah,
It's all good. I love
just
it.
learn more about your body. And
Yeah.
I that's what I just love teaching women about that.
That's awesome. Well, it's been
Yeah.
such a joy to be talking with you today.
Yes.
Where can people find you the best? We'll put everything in the show notes, but where can people find you the best when if they want to reach out to you?
Yes, so they can go to truthandfertility.com. That's where I do all of like my bookings. So if you want to learn the Creighton method, right, you can go there. I do a monthly intro session, so anybody could sign up for that on my website. I have my podcast, Truth and Fertility, and I do a lot of guest interviews on that, just because we were talking earlier before we started recording, but I have limited knowledge on these things. So I
Yeah.
need other people. I love picking people's brains about this stuff too, and people who know a lot more than me in different topics. So I have that podcast. I do technically have an Instagram. I do not update it at all. It's more so just there because people use Instagram as a search engine. So I want to
Yeah.
be there, but I
Yep.
don't post on it or anything.
Okay.
It's just there
Sounds
with
good.
information on on what
How
I
to
do.
find you.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Perfect.
those are the things.
Awesome. Well, that's good. It was so good talking with you. Is there anything else you want to say before we stop recording?
No, just thank you so
Okay.
much for having me. I appreciate our conversation.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks for spending this time with me on the Cyclical Doula podcast. If today's episode helped you feel more connected to your cycle or empowered on your fertility journey, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or leave a review. It really helps this podcast reach more people like you. And if you're ready to dive deeper, join my free Red Circle community. It's where we go beyond the podcast with exclusive resources, live Q&A sessions, and support for charting, planning, and thriving in your cyclical life. Visit the show notes to join the Red Circle today. I can't wait to see you there. Until next time, keep listening to your body. It's telling you so much more than you realize.